Thank you for your introduction and thank you for your invitation of today. My name is Sami Nas and I'm working as a customer success manager at Johnson Labs. I have close to 20 years of professional experience, and as Johnson Labs, we are state-of-the-art NLP, natural language processing provider, and mainly in healthcare and life sciences industries. And thank you for this opportunity of today. In a few words, let me also summarize our company. So Johnson Labs is headquartered in the United States in Delaware, and we have been recognized by one of the most senior healthcare analytics and data science company with several awards. We have been founded in 2016, and since then we are providing several software capabilities, mainly in healthcare and life sciences. And according to a recent study, more than 50% of the healthcare industry is using Spark NLP, our solutions, in their projects. And we are the most popular natural language processing library in the enterprise. And since the pandemic, we have a huge growth. It's close to 35 times so far. So we are really proud of it. So today I'm going to share you about natural language processing and its latest trends. So I will make an overall introduction. And then I'm going to deep dive into different use cases in life sciences industries. I think this will make sense because first we have to understand what is NLP and what are the latest trends and innovations in this area, and then we can focus on the details. So let's begin with the definition of natural language processing. Actually, it's a combination of linguistics, computer science, and artificial intelligence. And it allows different interactions between the computers or computerized systems and human language. And at the end, it allows you to generate different types of natural language data, which also allows you to understand different types of documents and contexts of these documents, which also allow to extract information and insights. So this is the main definition, and let's focus what's going on in this area, because it's not a new area, but mainly it was in academia, but recently we see a huge growth also in the industry. So in 2020, 2 years ago, we saw the first AI models which started to rely on English, but not on English, on the baseline, and it allowed to translate the text or documents into more than 100 languages, close to perfectly, so as if it was done by humans. So it was a big innovation. So this is also something ongoing, and it's becoming even better. So it's trying to be more scalable and more customizable. So this is one of the biggest trends. So there's now multilingual capabilities and also translation capabilities. Another huge innovation was about GPT-3. Maybe you heard about it. So this technique allows you, for example, on the left side, as you can see, to generate some images out of text information. So you can type a text, and then the AI model can generate the relevant images, as you can see, the different various options. And similarly, you can put another prompt. So it's about store, for example, and again, it can generate images. So this is a very huge innovation. So it started in 2020 and still goes on. And similarly, on the right side, you can see, maybe you know about, if you are working with coding and programming, so GitHub. So it's a tool, again, currently being piloted, which allows you to develop automated codings. So this code here, as you can see, has been developed not by a human, it was developed by an AI machine. So this can be also used by natural language generation or code generation. So this is a very important trend as well. And finally, we see some open source models. So the previous one was licensed models, and we see that there are also other options for the open source models, and we see more and more coming, and they are even becoming better and better. For example, one of the models has been used for physical interaction. So it's a physical interaction question answering model. So you can type a prompt, and it allows you to give you some answers. So this question could be answered. Similarly, it was also developed in mathematics area. So this is a Q&A system, question answering system for mathematics. So you can give a problem statement, and the system can try to give you the best solution. So these are all possible today. And also, we can see some adaptation in life sciences. For example, this is another open source model. So as you know, maybe PubMed, the scientific publications. And here you can also, again, ask some medical questions, and the system can try to give you the best answers. So these are today possible, and these are open source. It means that everyone can adapt it easily in their environment, but you need the computing power. This is the challenge. Another aspect is what's going on in the overall industry. So we see, according to the recent surveys, we see that more than 50% of the technical leaders are planning to invest even more into the NLP budget. So this is a big change. So there's an increase in the budget allocation, and this is also an important change. And in last year's trend, we see even more. So it's becoming even 60%. So this shows us that there is a huge trend towards NLP budget allocation and also resource allocation. So this is a growing area, that's for sure. And also another aspect is how this investment is being allocated. So NLP is actually a subsection of AI and machine learning. And here we also see that there's huge trend towards actually AI adoption in the enterprise. So, and that's why also NLP is being reflected accordingly. And this is also another aspect. So most of the enterprises are nowadays prioritizing their budgets, IT budgets, also especially covering AI and machine learning. So it's not anymore purely enterprise IT or, other tools within IT related projects, but it also covers, especially recently, AI and ML projects as well. So this is an important trend. And we also see that there is a market growth in NLP. Even in North America and Asia, we see more and more actually investments are being done, and China and also other countries are growing also in this area. So we see, as we can see, this is the predictions on the right side. We expect a further market growth for NLP. And what could be the common NLP use cases? So let's summarize. So one of the most important one could be maybe the document classification. The other one could be named entity recognition. We can see also sentiment analysis. Entity linking and knowledge graph is another opportunity. For sure, de-identification is one of them. Also, text summarization is very important use case. It's being highly used. We also see often intent classification, also relevant checkbox. So these are becoming more domain specific. And also translation could be one of the use cases. So these are different options, and you can see the trend for the adoption as well. So more and more people, both in academia and industry, are trying to adopt NLP in their use and for their use cases. So let's have a look how this could be done at high level. And as we mentioned, document classification, or we call it sometimes text categorization, is one of the most important tasks. It means that if you get a document, we should be able to understand what type of document it is, how can we classify it in terms of topic or in terms of context. So this is one of the important use cases. And also another one is maybe called content moderation, or even online content moderation. And according to surveys, we know that people are really impacted by the reviews, product-related reviews on the internet. That's why the companies and the enterprises are trying to moderate this content. They are trying to understand whether it's a fake one or not, or is it related with the product itself or not, or is it using offensive language or not, or is it threatening sometimes? So, or is it using multilingual capabilities, or is it annoying somehow or violating copyright? So these are all important things to be moderated by an enterprise. That's why we also heavily need, again, NLP in this domain. Another challenge is about toxic content. We see more and more in social media recently, and this could be actually classified, and this could be used for natural language understanding. So we already have free and open source tools as Johnson Labs. We offer them actually freely. Everyone can just download it, and just typing one line of Python code, it allows you to understand different aspects of the text, especially in social media. So we can detect emotions, we can understand the cyberbullying, or we can identify is a news fake or not. So these are all allow you to be used and to be implemented easily. So you can just go to this link and you can see the models that we are sharing freely with the whole public. And another consideration for such a solution is, first of all, the solution should be accurate. So this is highly important. So everyone is, first of all, looking at accuracy. And then readiness for production. So although it might be tested in test environments or quality environments, it should be also available in production environments. So it's another challenge to move to production. And also for sure, performance and speed and the scalability and also fit with the software stack is highly important. So these are the aspects that you need to consider before implementing a solution in NLP. And there could be different solution types for your information. So on the one hand, it could be open source or commercial or software as a service type of solutions. And also if you look from the different criteria like time to market, compliance, so you can have a comparison for different aspects for the different solution types. So you should be able to look also from these angles before selecting a solution, depending on your requirements. But it's not enough. So as you can see, machine learning has its own hierarchy of needs. And first of all, you should be able to have a model that can understand your domain and your overall business processes. And then on top of it, you should be able to have, if needed, a further annotation scheme and corpus construction. But it's not enough. Once you start annotating, also you will try to have a good quality of control processes. So you have to have a really clean data, and it should be consistent. Then you need to build also a nice architecture for your models. And finally, you should be able to optimize the models because it's an iteration, it's a continuous process, and you should be able to maintain your hyperparameters. So selecting a model and selecting a solution is not enough. So it's an iteration, it's a continuous improvement. And these are the main hierarchy of needs for machine learning. And another question, how does the model fit it? So sometimes it's you should have, let's say, 95% of accuracy, but although you achieve this accuracy, still you might have mistakes every day. So you should be able to correct them. Also, you should also always involve humans because although you find some issues, you should have further automated workflows which allows you to escalate it to the human teams because AI is not always correct and should not always be correct. That's why humans should be in the loop and they should be able to agree or disagree for the procedures or the approach. And it should be still a discussion in the organization to find the best accuracy over time. And that's why we should be able to design our solutions also for inaccuracy. So we should know that in advance that AI models are not perfect, they're imperfect. And your product that you are trying to develop should also consider this. And it's not actually an error. It should be something that should be considered as an assumption, and it's never perfect. And also humans should be in the loop all the time. That's why you should be able also to build a feedback loop within your organization. So you should classify who is going to give the feedback versus humans versus computers or vice versa. At the end, your goal is to have an overall automated system, but it should be supported and heavily managed or even moderated by the humans, depending on the requirements. So once you start in the annotation process, the labeling process, and trying to generate the training environment and infrastructure, also humans should be in the loop and they should work in common together as a team. And while doing this kind of projects, you should not forget, actually, there are other components in a data science project. So it's not only the machine learning related code that you need to develop. As you can see here, there are different processes that should be done in an orchestrated way. So there are data verification processes, there is machine resource management, serving of the infrastructure, and other processes like data collection and feature extraction. So it's not only ML code that needs to be developed. And overall, everything should be also monitored in an orchestrated way. So this is also highly needed. And you might have heard about this concept. It's called concept drift. It means that the accuracy can be degraded over the time. It means that, as we know, there are some changes in the environment that we are living. There are some changes in the organization, in the workforce. And this should be also reflected in our systems. And we call it drift. So there might be some changes, and that's why we need to be able to take action. And also we should be able to categorize, depending on our algorithm, how fast this problem could be depending on this change. So some parts of it maybe are never changing category, but some of them are always changing. For example, A face recognition or voice recognition cannot change immediately the next day. However, some tools like in cybersecurity area or e-commerce area could be changing in real time. That's why you need to be able to get adaptations accordingly. And also there are some things in between, for example, banking area or in the social networking area. These are not changing, but they are slowly changing. So you should be able also to take actions accordingly in your algorithms and in your models. So you should be able to put the right platform in the right place. So in the never-changing area, maybe you should be able to build some builds or some scientific methods like hypothesis and test it accordingly. But in the always changing area, you should be able to have a real-time online learning system which can act via a passive feedback algorithm, or you should be able to implement active learning, which allows you to get active feedback. And then you should be able to synchronize your data or retrain them accordingly, either daily or weekly, depending on the frequency that you need. So depending on your environment and depending on your requirements, you should be able to measure, retrain, and redeploy your model. It means that it's an ongoing work. And here, maybe we can also summarize the initial takeaways. So as we can see in the trends, there are great open source pre-trained models, and these are becoming even more popular and growing. And this is just the starting point, and it's not only enough to get the models, access the models, but you should be able to fine-tune them according to your requirements. And then you should be also regularly update the models over the time, because there might be drift opportunities and some drifting requirements. And finally, most importantly, AI systems cannot act on themselves, so humans should be in the loop and they should be giving feedback simultaneously. So let me start with the first one, which is biomedical knowledge graph. And before starting, let me also give you some context. So first of all, NLP, I think you heard this keyword. It stands for natural language processing. And why it's needed, let me try to give you the context. First of all, in biomedical area and also in pharmaceutical area, we have a lot of unstructured data. This data is also usually locked somewhere, but it's not being used for other purposes. And we estimate that it's around 80%. Secondly, we have huge growth in the number of scientific articles, publications recently, and which makes an additional pressure for the physicians. So they have to read the whole day to understand what's going on in their context, which is actually not possible. And also recently, NLP technologies reached a huge maturity. So actually every organization can easily adapt it and implement it without investing too much budget. And secondly, about knowledge graph, which is also very interesting. So it's linked with NLP. So it's a way of representing the data and the relationships as well. And it helps you to actually to consolidate your different data domains. Usually, most of the enterprise organizations have a lot of legacy systems and they have different kinds of requirements. But it's a good way to consolidate the data to make it easy to understand and to share further with your stakeholders. And it also helps you to make some predictions and also combine both structured and unstructured data. So that's why it's highly needed for most of the enterprise organizations. And if you make a research for the Google Trends or other places, you will see that there is a huge growth in the number of requests related with natural language processing and also knowledge graph, mostly in biomedical area. So this is also, you can see the chart here on the right side that is showing the importance of these two techniques. So first of all, how we can create a knowledge graph. The first step is collection. So we need to be able to collect our data and make the ingestion. In one of our recent projects, we use, as you can see on the left side, different data sets. These are like Wikidata, PubMed, or clinical trials. And they contained both structured and also unstructured data. And with knowledge graph, you can handle both. And you can make it easily searchable and also accessible, which is a challenge for most of the organizations. So it's not so easy to make it accessible. So the first step is we need to be able to collect the data. And this on the right side, you can see a visual to show you an example. The second part is inference. So by using natural language processing and by using Johnson Labs capabilities or other companies' capabilities, you should be able to make inference, which means that we should be able to find out all the entities and the relationships especially in the unstructured part, and to make them again structured with finding the relevant patterns. So in one of our projects, we use, as you can see on the right side, different techniques and different pre-training models. And then, depending on the requirements of the organization, we made further fine-tuning, and at the end, we reached the inference point. So this is highly important in the steps. So this is one of the crucial steps in the building of the knowledge graph. And then it's also a mindset change, because you need to be able to think like graphs, so which allows you further opportunities. So you might be able to use it for further connections in your data sets, or you might be willing to use your existing ontologies, which you already have, but in a graph technique. You can also start making some further simple queries and finding the insights out of the text. As you can see on the right side, you can make links and connections. And also there are some advanced techniques. We call it, for example, link prediction. So you can predict the next coming link, or you make a classification of relevant nodes. It helps you a lot, actually. And finally, you can visualize everything in like a tree and a knowledge graph, which makes it very easy to understand what is the context, what can I do with this data, and how can I use it further for my use cases. So this is highly important also for non-technical users. So it's a very good technique. And then you can start discovering, because you need some data to take some decisions, or you need some insights to understand the root cause of something, why it happened, why could it happen again, and how can I take some measures, for example. That's why we also deliver some kind of customized analytics tools to make it easy. And also this can be personalized depending on your requirements, so depending on your insights requirements. And also it also helps to make it clarify your domain and the context that you are using it. So that's why it's also important to deliver some customized tools for the business users. And a few numbers about our recent project. So we use huge number of data, as you can see here. So we dealt with different clinical trial documents. We found the interventions and the results of the clinical trials. We found, as you can see, 85 million entities within those texts. And we extracted all the facts from this text in different pillars as was requested. And now it became a huge information. It's not anymore data. It's not information, it's even a knowledge. And our target is to make it a wisdom at the end. So it should be applied every day in your operational life, if possible, because this should be also regularly updated, but it's a very good technique, and it makes it for sure a big difference in the enterprise level, and also even for startups for sure. And as you can see here, once you get the knowledge graph, you can start asking questions. So this is maybe most important things for business users, because they have a lot of questions in their minds, and they need a tool to be able to get the answers, both from accuracy point of view and speed point of view. And here, these are, as you can see, technical biomedical questions, and the knowledge graph can answer them. And as you can see here, 82% of the regular questions could be answered by using the knowledge graph. So it makes a lot of difference in the daily life of the business users and brings efficiency. And also for sure, usability, it's also important, because for people, it should be really easy to access, and it should be very easy to understand and use it as well. So user interface is also gives a lot of flexibility. So as I mentioned, you can use question answering or different techniques to get the data and the insights that you are requiring from the unstructured data, which is highly important. And this is another visualization. So in a text, in a sample text, in a biomedical text, we can find the entities, first of all, and then based on the entities, we can find the relations. And this could be drug-to-drug interaction, for example, in this case, or this could be a classifier, is something existing or not. And it makes it also very clear for anyone what is the relationship in this text, and make it also easy for them to understand. So this is another big advantage of knowledge graph plus NLP. A few numbers from our recent project. So as you can see, the benchmark results here. So this is here Spark Biomedical part. As you can see the results, and these are the data sets and the relevant entities, and we really get a good accuracy. in terms of benchmarking. It was a good result, and this was also actually published in this relevant scientific media. And also there is a small comparison here. So we compared Spark NLP versus others in the market, and we also see that there is a huge gain if you apply Spark NLP, because we were very strong in clinical concept extraction, de-identification, and also medication extraction. So these are highly needed tasks that you need to be able to accomplish in order to achieve the good results, because in pharmaceuticals, accuracy is highly important, and we could deliver actually the basics for the organization that has applied this project. So this was the first use case, and I'm now moving to the second one. This is also very interesting because this can be also experienced in most of the pharmaceuticals. It's the migration of clinical trial documents to the trial master file. And this could actually happen if a pharmaceutical or any other organization is acquiring a new company or a new drug, or even it could be due to an IT system change, it could be a migration. In that case, you might need this actually as a requirement to be able to migrate your trial master files to another environment and do the mapping based on the standards. In our recent project, we used DIA, so DIA, as a reference model and implemented accordingly. So I'm going to show you the process steps and why it was needed and what we delivered at the end. So these are some example clinical trial documents, as you can see on the right side. And some of the information, although it's textual information, it's highly important because we should be able to capture the protocol version that we applied in this clinical trial, the last name of the critical owner and signature dates. These are highly important information, and we should always keep them correct. And also there is another difficulty. So you can do this also by humans only, but it might be subject to mistakes, and because the dates might be present in different areas, and there might be some handwritten text as well, and also dates. So you should really have an intelligent system which can detect everything correctly. So this is highly important, and these are required information according to regulations. If I continue, we have further information, as you can see, for example, expiration date, or the first name and the last name of the relevant physician. And this information is highly important, and we should be able to first of all extract and then map it to our metadata. So it must be correct based on the metadata requirements. And that's why it's highly challenging. And another challenge is the traditional document migration process is slow. It's not speedy. It might take a huge time, and it could be inconsistent. It means that it might change from people to people, or the way they are using or their approach. That's why you need a really clever tool who can understand everything in the correct context and apply it according to the requirements and regulations of the organization. So that's why we implemented our AI-assisted migration tool. It's based on AI, applied AI, and natural language processing to extract all the information properly. Then we had to classify the documents depending on the document type and extract the information. Plus, we had to apply optical character recognition capabilities to be able to detect the handwritten text, even the tables as well. And also, we had another difficulty. We might have multiple languages, so we should be able to detect also different languages. And also, we should be able to in real time or batch mode, which will at the end bring huge labor savings and time savings for sure. It makes it faster and cheaper. So let me also try to share it to at high level what kind of pipeline has been used, because it contains specific parts. On the first line, you will see the development pipeline, and on the second one, you see the running production pipeline. And this was done for a project that you can see above. And in that one, first of all, we tried to train the data. Then we implemented Spark OCR with a tool called Annotation Lab. So this is another tool developed by Johnson Labs. It's mainly used for data annotation and augmentation purposes. And the challenging part was we had to make a post-processing of the annotated data by using the pre-trained models applicable for the organization. And finally, get augmented data and by using machine learning techniques. And once we make the development in the second phase, then we need to be able to make the production pipeline. In that case, we had a legacy system which was going to be replaced. You see the Medco Viva, and it's going to be replaced to a new environment. Then that's why we implemented the Spark OCR pipeline and then applied the classification model according to the requirements of named entity recognition and the organization requirements. And finally, by using post-processing techniques and quality control feedbacks, we finalized the whole migration. So these are the specific parts. And the good thing is, in case you have one day another project, everything can be used once again. It just needs to be made slight changes, but this is fully reusable. So it means that if you have a new drug or if you acquire a new company, the same capabilities can be reapplied. And we also built a so-called annotation guideline because it's needed to understand what we are going to annotate and how we are going to annotate. And there should be really also the agreement between different annotators. So we might have multiple annotators. That's why we also built a documentation called Annotation Guideline, which gives the guideline of annotating and also post-processing. And in the post-processing part, we need to be able to use some rules and techniques to increase the overall accuracy, which is highly needed for organization. And this was also a challenging part, but we built the rules together with the organization and applied it on the relevant documents. A few words about the project setup. So we had different kinds of document classes, about 48, and we use a specific reference model in this project. And we also obeyed all the regulations, including FDA's regulations. And also on the right side, you can see what kind of IT requirements on infrastructure was used. And this is the team from Johnson Labs and the customer side to give you an idea what kind of reference deployment can be used. And also you can see the results. I think this is the most important result out of this project. So on average, we get about 98, even 99% of artifact accuracy. And you can see the details here. And also at attribute level, we achieved 97%, which was satisfactory for the organization. And we successfully completed the project. So that was the second use case. I think it could be applied for any pharmaceutical or hospital or healthcare organization. The third one is also valid, I believe, because pharmacovigilance and adverse drug event reporting is a required actually process in all the organizations. So as mentioned, so medicines and vaccines go a lot of testing for safety and efficacy in several clinical trial stages, but still we see side effects in the real world, and this must be reported, detected, and the relevant actions needs to be taken. So it's the responsibility of the organization. That's why we should be able to understand the side effects and the details and should be able to classify them as well. So this is just one sample text here. So we might have received a text like this, and we should be able to detect what is the drug, is there an adverse event reporting, if yes, what are the relationships. So this will help us to understand the root cause and take actions. And there is another challenge in adverse event reporting. First of all, according to a study, 94% is being reported underreported. This is based on multi-country analysis. So there's huge gap on what's going on in real life and what's being reported on the paper. So this is a big challenge. And also another big challenge is the systems are so complicated sometimes. The teams who are working on this need to be able to access at least 3 systems to be able to consolidate all the data. It could be coming from EHR data or from different sources, CRM or social media recently. So you need to be able to work on multiple systems in order to be able to get the report first of all. So this is a big challenge. And also the adverse event reporting can be also reported via different channels. So it can come via the patient or physician or even the sales force or medical science liaison of the teams. So that's why it makes it very difficult sometimes. So as you can see as a sample here, we should be able, first of all, to understand all the texts that are arriving to us. And then we need to be able to classify them. We should be able to say that, is it an adverse event reporting or not? Is it positive or negative? So this is the first step. And then we should be able to detect the relevant entities, as you can see here. So it could be two types. Either it could be the adverse event itself. So the chunk here is adverse event reporting in this case. And then we should be able for sure to detect also the drug itself, the drug entity. And finally, we should be able also to detect the relationships. So as Johnson Labs, we actually developed all the relevant pipelines to be able to do this. And we have even published a very detailed peer-reviewed report on this one. And it shows our benchmarks in different tasks, as you can see here. So these are the benchmarks, and these are the Spark NLP results. And as we mentioned, we should be able to give state-of-the-art results in classification, entity recognition, and relationships. And these are our results. So if you're interested, you can have a look in this paper. And one more thing is, this is also important. This is a snapshot the architecture that can be implemented, just to give you an idea. So on the left side, we can see the different data sources that we are using. So it could be multiple, as you can see. And then we should be able to make the data ingestion either on cloud or on premise side. And here we can see the different tools. So we need a tool for storage or data lake, depending on the requirements. And then we need a tool for model ops part. So we should be able to do the full model tracking. And here is the baseline here on the data science part and applied AI part. You can see Johnson Labs. So we have our model repository. We have our different various medical transformers. We support different medical terminologies and also languages as well. And then here at this steps, we prepare the whole pipeline itself, optimize it. And finally, we should be able to move everything to the production by using the relevant concepts and techniques in the organization's corporate policy. So this was the third one, and let me go to the final one. It's about data curation and clinical decision support. And in this case, we took oncology, as it is very common and it's very complex. So this is a sample scenario for a clinical guideline, as you can see, for early breast cancer. And as you can see, it could become very complex to become and get the decisions clinically. So you can see different kind of decision points as a sample. And for a doctor, for a physician, it could be very difficult to apply it because every patient could be different and we need to be able to personalize it. But basically, it gives you the high level of the guideline. And when we go further, we can see that the data itself relevant with oncology could be difficult to understand. As you can see on the right side, it could be paper-based, it could be maintained by several physicians or different healthcare providers, care providers. And as you can see, it's not English, it's a healthcare language. It's a different type of language. And there are different data points. That's why it's even very difficult for a human to understand, to read, and to understand and digest it. So that's why we know that also physicians have a huge pressure on their daily life. So we need some really clever tools to help them and to give them decision support opportunities and to convert this kind of data into structured environment. And we know that this type of nodes, this type of unstructured data, it could be in different formats and in different process steps. It could be found, for example, in discharge summaries. We can see them in procedure notes or stroke notes or pathology reports or lab reports. So there are different types of reports in different formats, and someone really needs to understand them, consolidate them, clean them, and then take action and try to give the cure to the patient. So it's highly challenging. So here in this case, we really have a good model for oncology. We developed it, and it's really have a good granularity. As you can see on the left side, these are the sample tokens or words, and then we can map it to the relevant entity categories and labels, as you can see. So it's not so easy to detect them and to make the extraction. So this should be done really perfectly. And also, once we get the data, we should be able to match it to the patients on the clinical trials, because we really have to find out the patients that need this type of clinical trials. So because as you can see on the right side from pharma surveys, there are huge competition in the number of drugs in the market, and it's really also sometimes time consuming to find the real patients and match them to the right clinical trials. And you need also some intelligence here. That's why in our NLP challenge, we've tried to find out all the patients that needs to be enrolled by using this inclusion and exclusion criteria that has been given to us. So as you can see from the medical text, it's trying to classify the background of the patient, what happened to them, what did not happen to them, and what could be the symptoms or treatments opportunities. And based on this, we need to find out all the relevant patients for the clinical trial. And that's why it's highly important to be able to use NLP. And finally, as you might know, we have different patient registries, especially in US, for example, according to surveys, we see that a specific healthcare facility can participate in 5 to 10 different registries because it's needed because of regulatory requirements or business requirements. That's why it also makes it very complex. And there is data flow from different angles and from different data points. And that's why it's also not so easy to manage patient registries. So this is another good use case. And here we need to be able to find out from the unstructured data the structured version. So we should be able to convert it in a structured version as if it's in a table or an Excel file, and then work on it by using different techniques and criteria to find out, for example, in this case, we need to be able to find all the patients who have some kind of hypertension, or the P is, let's say, between 8 to 15. So in order to be able to do this, you need really NLP techniques. Natural language processing is a good cure to find a good solution for this challenge. And you should be able to have a really strong models, clinical models, which understands what's going on, what's going on in text that are being reported. So it could be in postology area about the drug. So we should be able to find out the dosage, the frequency, the duration, and the strength of a drug. It could be in anatomy area, or it could be the sensitive information about the patients, which needs to be first be identified. And you should be able to understand the whole context about the patient. But it's not enough. After detecting the entities, we should be able to understand the assertions. So is something happening, a problem, for example, is present, or is something absent, or something happened in the past, or is it related to something with the family, for example? So we should be able to understand also the assertion, clinical assertion as well. And after that, after making name entity recognition and assertion, then we can apply medical relation extraction techniques. For example, we can find out, is a drug given in order to treat a symptom, or the symptom is happening because of this drug? So all types of questions could be answered to find a cure for the relevant patient. And also another important thing is we have different kinds of medical terminologies, coding terminologies like ICD-10, UMLS, RX norm, SNOMED. And we are also able to find out those from the text and map it to the relevant coding, which also help claiming, reimbursement, and other purposes. So this is also a highly important feature of our software library. And this is an example of a real-world NLP pipeline. It's just an example. It could become even more simple or more complex, but usually it's needed. So first of all, you should be able to make document parsing depending on the source data. Then you should be able to detect different sections of the text and convert it if needed. Then you might need to apply some parsers and NER conversion, check merging, dependency parser, and then finally find out different relations in this text, and finally also apply some kind of assertion classification, and finally also entity resolution to be able to get the results that is needed for the organization. So as Johnson Labs, we are delivering mainly the Spark NLP, which is open source, and it is one of the most popular NLP libraries. So everyone can download and use it. And we also support our whole community via our Slack channels, so it's open source. The second one that we use in all the 4 use cases that I've shown today is called Spark NLP for Healthcare. So it's licensed, it's running on top of Spark NLP. And it has more than 600 pre-trained models. So these are healthcare specific models, as you can see, like clinical area, anatomy, demographics, drugs, risk factors, even social determinants of health. And it contains medical transformers and medical terminologies. And it's also applicable for the identification purposes as well. So this is our licensed library for our customers. And also we have a library called Spark OCR because we use it also in a few projects. So it's called optical character recognition. So it helps to read the data from PDF files or DICOM files like pathology, radiology files, or Word documents or image files, and then enhance them, because usually you need to do some kind of enhancement. Either there are some noise or erosion, or you need to make some correction first. So we can do all of these and then start recognizing the regions, the tables, the signature, the dates or brands, and then make text extraction and populate the data finally to the relevant environment. So this is our last product. With this, I'm completing my talk of today. Thank you for this opportunity, and I'm wishing a very successful summit for all attendees and speakers. Thank you, everyone. And if you have any questions, I would like to get them right now. Thank you.